Imagine not being Leeds, not feeling this pain, not dancing through thunder, not walking through rain. Imagine not rising with fists in the air when the world turned its back and no one would care. We've lived in the ashes, we've drowned in defeat, but still we stand proud on our battered old feet. Imagine not loving with all that you are. Imagine not being Leeds.
We love you, Leeds, Leeds, Leeds.
We do love you, Leeds, Leeds, Leeds. Now then, folks, welcome back to Imagine Not Being Leeds. Daniel Farke's press conference has just finished. Decent press conference. I didn't mind the questions. Some good news, some bad news on injuries. But we'll get through it. I've made some notes. So we'll get through it together and we'll see what you think. But I was quite pleased with the outcome. There were one major talking point that we all sort of wanted to go one way, and yeah, we'll get into that. So, it was asked on the confidence of the group in general, how the offensive players will get confidence from scoring goals. Bit of a basic question, but yeah, sort of to start it off, it was sound. Obviously, he mentions that when you're an offensive player, it's important, especially as a newly promoted side, that you get goals fairly early. It's been quite hard, goals, you know, for goals to come for Leeds United. Obviously, until Wolves only scored the one. Which won a penalty. So obviously goals breed confidence when it comes to those sort of players. So he was really pleased to sort of get the fruits of their labour, and it feels like we deserved more with the goals the chances we've created, that we should have had more goals in the opening 4 games. But it was nice for them to all come in quick succession at Wolves, and 100% as a striker or an offensive player, the only real way you can gain confidence is by scoring goals. You know, goals, you need more than in your game than just goals. As an offensive player, you need to be able to bring people into play, assists and pre-assists, and just, you know, affecting the game in a positive manner. But goals, ultimately, for someone like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which he speaks about later, they are the main important thing to breed confidence is goals. So, yeah, obviously went into the Bournemouth game, sort of touched on them, spoke, you know, about what he thinks of them as a side. It's going to be a tough game. He understands that. But obviously Elland Road, it's an opportunity to get 3 points. And the way Daniel Farke speaks, I do think sometimes he is happy with a draw in certain games. He's definitely more pragmatic now than he has been before. But he'll always speak about whether it's home or away. He's always fancying us to go win the game. And then if we can't win the game, obviously make sure we don't lose it. But yeah, massive respect for Bournemouth. Really likes him as a side, and he's definitely got respect for their manager too. Got asked about Perry and Darlow's situation. Again, a little bit surprised that Perry's missing again. I thought he may come back into the squad, but we did hear last week that, you know, there was a chance he may not be fit for this one. When he first got injured, I heard that it was only going to be a couple of games. It looks to be a little bit more severe than that. He's still not back training yet. He hasn't been on the grass with the boys yet. He should be back team training next week, so I assume he won't be going away with Brazil anyway, will he? He's not in their squad, so he will stay at Thorpe Park for the international break, and hopefully we'll be back after that. But he did mention, obviously, with him not being fit for, you know, last few games, the likelihood is it's going to take him a while to get back up to speed. So I would expect to see Darlow now for the couple of games after the international break too, which by that point, if he's still playing well, you know, Perry's going to struggle to get that shirt back. But he's very, very happy with all 4 keepers. He wanted to emphasise that, as one of the journals mentioned it were really good to have 2 really good goalkeepers. And he shut that down pretty quickly and said he's happy with all 4. Mentioned Elland Road, and also mentioned Alex Cairns, which is nice. It keeps morale in the camp high, doesn't it? To even mention Alex Cairns seems a bit wild. He won't feature at all for Leeds United this season, in my opinion. And if he does, there's something majorly gone wrong with injuries. So, but yeah, keeping morale up there by speaking about Millier and Cairns. He's happy with all 4 keepers, but yeah, Darlow's been outstanding, and we would all agree that he deserves to keep his spot until he doesn't. So yeah, that's it on that one. Jayden Bogle is fit. Woohoo! That is, let's be fair, that is the main reason you watch the press conference. That is the main reason you're probably watching this, if you don't already know. That's the main talking point. Jayden Bogle limps off at Wolves, bruising on top of his foot. You're thinking, proves he's just a bit of a soft lad. I'm joking. But it looked quite bad. I went at the game. I could see it. It were hurt. It were really hurt, and I were panicking, thinking he broke a bone in his foot. There was somewhat severe. He walked off, but limped off heavily with the help of 2 people. Thank God he is fit and up for selection this week. Trained yesterday, back in full team training on Wednesday. So yeah, that is great news. James Justin probably a little bit gutted, thinking he may have got a bit of a run inside, which I wouldn't have minded, but Jayden Bogle is arguably one of our most important players up there with Ampadu, and one of our best players too over the last 12 months or so. So yeah, great news. Jayden Bogle will be up for selection, and I assume it will be the same back 5 as normal. There's no reason to change it. They're playing really well. Dan James is back too. He's back in team training. He was back yesterday. Late decision on him, because obviously he hasn't had much as game time lately as a Jayden Bogle. So there'll be a little bit of a late check on him, but by the sounds of it, I think he'll be on the bench. I would assume Aronson comes back in. There were no questions on Aronson this week. I would assume he starts, does Aronson, and James on the bench. So yeah, it's good to have Dan James back. Great option off the bench too. That may be his role for this season. We'll have to see. Maybe he can get back in contention as a starter. But just having back in the matchday squad, albeit we don't know for sure, but a late check on him. I would assume if we were training yesterday, training today, training Friday, training Saturday, but he'll be back in that squad, will Dan James, which is brilliant news for us. Gives us more tools off the bench, more asset. A lot more firepower, which is needed at times. Willy Gnonto, however, is not back in training yet. Still has problems with his calf. He will definitely not play. Hoping to have him back in team training next week. So that's a shame. Again, nothing major. Will be back, hopefully, for Spurs if he's back in team training next week. Maybe give us a lift for that game. But the fact I've got Dan James back, at least that's a bit of positive news. And obviously Bogle being fit, they were the main sort of talking points. Dan James, Willy Gnonto, and obviously Bogle, and the fact 2 of them are probably going to play as out of the 3, I will take that. So that's not great news on Willy, but great news on Dan James and Bogle. Set pieces. He was asked about set pieces. Do we have a set piece coach? And he started by saying we have a specialist. Who sort of oversees that and does that, and then he was sort of quizzed on it, and it turned out not really a specialist, but a group of people. There've been a couple of people promoted as well to focus on that, but he mentioned it as a bit of a group. He doesn't like anyone having sort of that title where a goal goes in from a corner and the camera shows that coach. I didn't really understand where that was going, but likes to focus on the players, which is obviously the case, but it made out it's something to focus on. But we've seen before in press, haven't we, a big thing made of Leeds not having one and Leeds looking at bringing one in. It doesn't look like we've brought anyone in specifically recently, but he's made out they do specialise in that area of the game. Some people would say they can't see it. I think, you can see in that free kick, which is a set piece. I know we probably talk about corners more when you think of set pieces. I think the free kick of Anton Stack, you could tell there was some sort of move there. Ampadu were in the wall, and I felt like there were a little bit more to that than what we'd normally do. Just have a pop at goal. It felt a little bit more planned, and there was a bit more structure there. So hopefully that's something we're going to see over the coming weeks. But yeah, I don't think we brought anyone in recently, but he definitely says a focus on it. And yeah, they don't really like to talk about it too much. It's just what they do in training, and it's up to the boys to sort of execute, and it's up to the players. He got asked about the away games and the home games. Obviously we've played, I think 3 out of the last 4 have been away from home. We've now got 3 out of the next 4 at home. So, what's the sort of difference? And he said basically, obviously the home advantage is massive. As a side, we always like to play on the front foot where we can. But obviously it is 19 home games, 19 away games, so he doesn't put too much emphasis on it, although he understands these perks and there's more of an advantage of being at home. He gets that, and we need to make it a fortress, Elland Road, and we're doing pretty well so far, he says, obviously with 2 games, 4 points. But he does try and treat every game the same, in terms of it is just a winnable game. You go out there, whether you play home and away, you've got to play everyone twice. So, yeah, apart from the odd sort of advantages, he still tries to win the game regardless, and he understands to stay up and do well in the division, you do have to win away from home too. So he's happy the next game's at Elland Road, the next 2 are at Elland Road, but obviously sees them as difficult fixtures still, so be interested to see how we set up in them games. Got asked to touch on DCL, how he's sort of adapted at Leeds United, how well he thinks he's doing, and first 2 words I think were top class. Leader in the dressing room, great with Harry Gray, loved hearing that. Been a lot of diss on DCL early doors from opposition fans, not really Leeds fans. I think Leeds fans have always known if he stays fit got a good player. England international, I think will get back into the international fold as well potentially. I know there's a lot of talent up there too, but good season at Leeds United. He's still a good a youngish age at 28 to still be playing international football. But I love how he's a bit of a leader and a mentor already to people like Harry Gray. That's invaluable experience to have. You've had Harry at Leeds United. No disrespect, I don't think Bamford is of the level for Harry Gray to be aspiring to be at. I presume I would look forward to Harry Gray's career being, a better player than good old Patrick Bamford was. He was a good player for Leeds, don't get me wrong. But I think looking at DCL in training, a fit DCL, I think it's another level to what he'd be getting from Patrick Bamford. I think when you look at a number 9 at Leeds, he's got all the attributes that you'd want to sort of look at and feed off and grow with and take pointers off. I think DCL's the man. I think he's a great person to have in the dressing room. Super professional, and he also said he's in our plans mid to long term. So DCL, he looks like he'll, obviously he's got, I think, a 3-year contract. But Daniel Farke's so happy to have him at Leeds. You can tell the way he plays. He's such a strong player for us, and he will be for mid to long term. So that's brilliant. He mentioned about the change of the philosophy of the players and the group of the change from Championship to Premier League. Has it been a difficult transition for the team to go from being a dominant force, having the ball, to obviously sort of knowing it's not going to be the same sort of game state in this division, with being a newly promoted side and not being the strongest side. And he said the plan for that pre-season, they made sure they had high quality and calibre opposition. La Liga sides, they had Villarreal. They had obviously Milan, a couple of games in Germany. They made sure they had quality opposition in pre-season to make sure they were going into the Premier League season with that sort of belief they could challenge and be competitive against decent level players. So some of the focus on that's the reason they played those decent sides in pre-season. And yeah, it does feel like every game is a game Leeds can win, or they'll try and win. And obviously try not to lose, as I said earlier, if they can't, but does like to play on the front foot still, even though he knows the quality that he has in our side, or the lack of quality to a degree, and compared to other teams it's evident to see. But still believes we have the players capable of dominating possession, creating chances and being, really good. And it's part of our DNA, as I said. And it makes sure that DNA still remains and still gives the player the confidence to go try and win games and be on the front foot. A bit of a funny one, but the question on Seb Bornau, I didn't really expect Bornau to come up, but I think it was really good to highlight that there is players in the squad that aren't getting game time, and this isn't down to Daniel Farke, this is just down to the way football works. If everyone's playing well, which we've had a great start of the season, if you haven't got injuries in those positions, how do you keep people happy? It's such a difficult thing, I would imagine, as a manager. And there's been times Daniel Farke's potentially got that wrong. There's been times where he'll have got that right too, and it's one of those juggling acts what you've got to do at a top side with decent players. And Bornau, we don't really know what he's like. We haven't really had a good look at him. Is he good enough for the Premier League? Hopefully, but and let's be fair, if he is, that's great depth, because he's not even making the matchday squad now. So be interesting to see how he's favoured this season. But he's in a position where we've got a decent amount of players, and at centre half, as he goes on to say, it's not a position you change. It's not like a winger or a striker or a midfielder where you change maybe one or two of them in a game to impact the game, get things fresh. Centre half, if everyone's fit, they play 90 minutes. So he doesn't feel the need to have another specialist centre back on the bench. He's got obviously Biol, and obviously, if he came on and there were an issue there, you've also got Ampadu mid-game who could sit in there, and you could bring a Gruev on. So he's got enough options on a game day without having another specialist centre-half taking the bench spot, and I sort of understand that. And he actually said he feels really stressed about it. He isn't. He's hurt that he has to keep a player of Seb's quality out of the starting lineup. But obviously with the cover, he just feels he can't have him in the matchday squad currently. But it's nothing he's done. He's not injured. He's a great professional, and in training he tries hard and works hard every day. And he is quite hurt by it. That it's just the way it is. But we are dead lucky to have Pascal and Joe Rodon remained fit so far this season, doing a really good job. So yeah, got asked about Longstaff. Also, mentioned since Newcastle he has come, he has come into his own. He's playing really well. Obviously it's going to take a bit of time to adapt to the new team, the new system. We've been at Newcastle all his career, but thinks he's done really well. Has got no but praise from him, but he can always improve, as any player can. And obviously he's playing in probably the most competitive area of the squad. He said that he's so happy with all the midfielders he's got in there. He even highlighted Grover's not doing no wrong. Tanaka. He's really happy with his 5 midfielders. That's evident, and it probably is our most competitive area of the side. And he says, he's pretty blessed at the number of players he's got in there and where they are at the moment. But yeah, he's really happy with Longstaff, and he thinks he's slotted in really well. Noah Okafor were quite an interesting one. I've spoke quite a lot on the flair players at Leeds United and Daniel Farke's tolerance levels when it comes to players expressing themselves, and it definitely is a thing. Which I'm a firm believer in. You've got to allow freedom for your attacking players to go win your games, and obviously, he is doing that. It's not a dig, but it came up again. So we asked about him, as a quality, the quality within your forward players. Do you accept that these players will lose possession from time to time, which Okafor did in that first half? And he said, no, I don't accept this. I don't accept him, as players are losing the ball. They've got Noah's got quality. But he needs to keep the ball better. He needs to keep things simple at times. But he is pleased with him so far. Thought he grew into the game. But I really like that. At first I was like, nope, don't like him losing ball, which is obvious. Ideally, you don't want anyone to lose ball. But, it's about balancing that risk reward, innit? You need to, if you can beat a man and get behind your man, then all of a sudden someone's got to leave their man to come across, and that's how you create, opportunities. I think if everyone was squeaky clean, if everyone were 100% on the game the whole time, there'd be no but worldies getting scored. There'd be a lot less goals in games. So you do the freedom you've got to give certain players is needed at times, I think, for them to go win your game. But yeah, it's something which is going to be interesting to see how Noah Okafor goes going forward. So I would suggest Daniel Farke wasn't happy with that opening, maybe 25 minutes of Okafor, because he lost the ball a lot. He even highlighted, losing the ball, and it sort of led to their goal. But yeah, be really interested to see how that goes with Okafor, because he's definitely got the talent if he's allowed that license to go win them games. But yeah, nope, don't like him losing ball, which is obvious, but it made me chuckle. The good old Daniel Farke there. But great press conference, really enjoyed that one. Bogle back fit is the biggest positive out of there. Let's be fair, it would have been the biggest negative had he not been fit. But yeah, all good. I hope you like this video. Do me a solid, smash a like, smash a subscribe if you're new here, and bang your notification bells on. Smash that hype button, which is new. Love you all. Marching on together to Bournemouth. Get up. I best go get some more work done now, ain't I, folks? Bye bye. Take care.